Don't forget to check out Friday the 13th, Part 3, Flaw All review. You can also win the original on Blu-ray in Steelbook form. Just leave any comment on that video to enter to win. Welcome to Make a Path Presents. I'm Ronnie Hayes, and today we're going to talk about the first 2 episodes kicking off the final season for The Walking Dead. Now, episode 1101 is going to premiere August 22nd, but if you want to watch it a week early, you can get it on AMC+. Anyhow, I was able to get a screener for the first 2 episodes of the final season. I have watched it, and we're going to do a spoiler-free. We're not allowed to discuss the spoilers, plus that would be kind of shitty. We're not a spoiler channel, but this season does kick off with 2 good episodes. The tricky part is you sound a bit negative going into it because you want people to taper their expectations strictly because it's a premiere episode. I think if this was just an episode somewhere in the middle, it would be easier to say, okay, watch it. There's some good stuff here, some bad stuff here. There's some really cool visuals here, this, that, and the third. But because it's a premiere, especially going into the final season, it's not quite your drop kick you in the face, bam, premiere to suck you in for this huge ride. It's kind of just like, okay, well, here's what they're doing next. And if I could describe the beginning, the entrance into the final season, if I can explain it in one sentence, it would probably be prepare yourself for grocery shopping in a zombie apocalypse, essentially. Now, that could be good or bad. I know there was both pros and cons with these 2 episodes. I would get your expectations in check. There's really cool stuff. However, I'll be honest, at the end of the day, it was missing that hook for me. One of the biggest problems with the entrance into the final season is 1101 is called Part 1. I forget the title. It's like, it's like Archer Part 1 or something Part 1, and then something Part 2 for 1102. And it is really 1 episode split in half. Yes, you heard me right. The premiere is 1 episode, it feels like, split in half in a painfully annoying way, similar to the season 6 finale. Not as big. It's not as big of an event, but it has those kind of vibes, and it is pretty frustrating. I was annoyed, and I was able to watch them back to back in 1 sitting. And what made it even worse is in the beginning of episode 2, they do it again. They build up the momentum, and then they interrupt it with the credits sequence. Why can I not say that word? The credits sequence. And I think that is important. I don't want to just be ragging on it. I think it is important. If you're listening to me now, expect a possible frustration at the end of episode 1, and then you're going to have to wait a week to get the conclusion. And even when the conclusion begins, you're going to get interrupted with a credits sequence. Some of you guys are going to find it, it's fantastic no matter what. We're going to get a peek at the Commonwealth, the story. And I think this is extremely slow, and it may be more frustrating because I'm a comic fan, so I know about the Commonwealth. But even if I was a regular fan, I know it's the final season, and I know the Commonwealth has to play a vital role in concluding the show because there's nothing else going on. And you know what I mean. There's other stuff popping off, but this is primarily the big deal. And it's so slow that it almost feels as if they have the subway sequence for episode 1 and 2 is our main set that they needed to utilize for these 2 episodes. And it's almost as if they structured the Commonwealth teases around that set, and they sprinkle them in here and there. But it just moves ever so slow. But it is good to see, and I will say the Mercer casting is friggin' perfect. I mean, the Mercer casting is absolutely perfect. The Walking Dead does really good on casting. I will say that. They've rarely ever stumbled when it came to the casting. Now, within the 2 episodes, we're going to peek at Alexandria. The Whispers did destroy the absolute shit out of Alexandria, so keep that in mind. This is not spoilers. This is from the ending of the last season. It already took a massive blow, and in the beginning of the season 11, you're going to get information where it's still hurting in a big way. They kick off the first episode with a cool, sketch scavenger run that had some cool action in it that I really enjoyed, and it did it in a clever way. Speaking of gender here specifically, the women are utilized in a way where it makes sense, and you'll get it when you watch it, and you're like, oh, I get that, okay. And it makes absolute sense, and it's really cool to see women, I'm using that as an example within the scene. They're used specifically for something just because it's the most logical sense, you know what I mean? The other thing that we have in the storyline here is the subway, and we've seen that or the subway location, and we see that in the trailer. And I bring that up because it is absolutely gorgeous. Now with the screener, it isn't, it wasn't the final edited piece. I don't think it was fully polished, and I don't think because it was streamed, it didn't have the clarity, but it still was absolutely gorgeous. It's a fresh location, and I've often talked about not having new and fresh locations. And it does bring up kind of what has been strangling, I should say, the show in a big way, and that's the budget. And yes, even though I truly enjoyed the location a lot, you can even see glimpses of it in the trailer. It's friggin' awesome. But you do get the feeling they said, okay, you know what? We can afford this set as long as we use it for 2 episodes and not 1, because essentially you can see the budget being knocked around right from the rip. They have to go on this run, this mission, and you're gonna see the world, guys. We're gonna see nope, because then it rains, can't see shit, and it sends them down into the subway. And then you're kind of like, oh, I should have saw this shit coming, Then you get into the subway and you're like, okay, this is creepy. It's claustrophobic, great atmosphere, the sound design is rocking. I like it. They got some awesome visuals, and it kind of tells the story of some of the survivors and some of the stuff that they see. However, it does keep that feeling where it said, okay, we have this set, we have to spread it out in 2 episodes. The atmosphere I liked a lot. Maggie and Negan especially was a heavy focus, and for me it was one of the best parts. Maggie actually tells this story, and the story is awesome. I mean, it's more interesting than what we really have here, because it's a really tense story, and fans of Bone Tomahawk, you recognize this story right away. It's like somebody watched Bone Tomahawk and they were like, yo, that's a great idea, and they threw it into this story that Maggie tells. They give Negan some choices to make here that I thought were interesting, because we expect Negan to do some stuff, and then they give him some choices where it starts to get a little like they're taking a risk with the character, and I'm liking it, because he's gonna piss some of you guys off. He's gonna make a decision that's gonna turn some of you way off, and then some of you are gonna love him for it. I was kind of scratching my head at first, and then I was like, you know what? Yeah, I mean, this fits within his character. He's not a saint. I mean, shit, let's go. And it's really going to divide you, especially if you're a fan of 2 specific characters. Kicking back to the Commonwealth, we will see the wall of photos. They're going to show us that early on. I'm going to say it's odd, though, because the buildup is real slow for the Commonwealth. And again, for comic fans, it's going to feel extra slow. But once they get to these interesting moments, it's odd how they just rush it to completion. And the wall of photos is one of those moments where really slow grinding build up to it, and then when you get that scene, it's like, oh, quick, cut the commercial, it's over with, and let's keep it moving. That turned me off a bit. It was a really interesting moment. The Reapers, you're going to get a taste, but again, keep your expectations in check. I would expect or anticipate the Reapers heavy from 3 on. I kind of get this vibe that they're going to be an off and on kind of lingering. We already get too much. I'm not going to get into it because we don't get any information in the first 2 episodes, but I will say in the trailer, I feel like we got kind of too much information, especially Daryl's connection to the Reapers. But so you only get a little tease on human, but you get a heavy focus for zombie action in these episodes. And it's nice how they utilized a combined space, and there is good zombie gore. There's a little weird moment where kind of a human body is kind of standing up, and no, it's not a zombie. You'll see what I mean. It's one of those gory moments where you can't really do it if it's not. I guess maybe they could play around with a different way to do it, but needless to say, the gore is there, and it's cool. And yes, we're gonna get resting zombies again, so prepare the comments, because this happened last time. We had resting zombies in episode 1 of season 1, and they haven't shown them for like multiple seasons in a row, and then out of the blue we got them, and I remember comments exploded about why the zombies are resting or sleeping. A But yes, you're gonna get the good old resting zombie that is in the canon from the very first episode. I think it's the first zombie Rick even kills. But the reason I say that is because that entrance in may confuse you a bit. You may think it's dead zombies, but nope, they're just kind of resting, and we get a good moment there. Now, in closing, they are still good episodes, but they're just missing something. Something in the story to hook me in. It's a point, not a hook. It'll poke you, it'll get your attention, but it just doesn't hook you. That's the best way I can describe it. You know, it pokes you, it gets your attention, but it just doesn't have that good old-fashioned hook. And I did kind of rack my brain as to why, and the only thing I could come up with is it does feel like they're doing small chores as opposed to something that's a little more important, a little more impactful, a little more vital for the overall story. And don't get me wrong, they are on a mission to save the people of Alexandria. When you say it like that, it sounds so important. It just doesn't feel that way. Like back in season 2, for example, or even 1. Season 1, Rick was finding his family. It's intimate. It's important. Bang. And then you have Carl getting shot in season 2. That pushes a good chunk of the story. Sophia getting missing. Those are intimate, and they're gut-punching and important. You know, we're going to save all of Alexandria. It sounds like it should be so very vital, and in real life it would be, but it just doesn't have that same hook on screen when you're watching, that same intimate, important hook. And I may be one of the only ones who feels that way. I probably am. But I'll say, definitely good episodes, but they didn't blow me away. Good, regular, in the middle of the storyline episodes, I should say. Don't forget, we posted Friday the 13th, Flaw vs. All, Part 3, recently on the channel. Oh my god, I had so much fun doing that edit. Thoughts and opinions below. I'm done talking. It's your turn.